Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I specifically requested a Chevy Suburban for this trip that I'm about to take with Dax and Anish out to the desert. I'm going to tell you why. Because the Suburban has been refreshed for 2025. It got fully redesigned back, I think it was 2021 model year, but this year it's getting a little bit of different styling, and it's getting a lot of interior updates. But what it has is Super Cruise. And not only does it have Super Cruise, but it is the only semi-autonomous driving functionality that I know of on the market. I'm pretty confident in this, that allows you to use it while towing. Because yes, we will be towing with the Suburban. And to me, there's not really much point in getting something like a Suburban or a Tahoe or a Yukon or even an Expedition or so if you're not planning on hauling many people and things, and ideally some stuff as well. So today we are actually awaiting Miles from Miles Per Hour to drop off some Kawasaki jet skis, because we're going to be heading out and surprising Dax on a bachelor weekend trip with these two Kawasaki jet skis and tugging them with the Chevy Suburban. The Suburban has about an 8,000 pound tow rating. This is the RST model, and it is equipped with the optional 6.2 liter V8 engine. Now you can also get the 5.3 V8, that's the base motor, and the 3 liter diesel inline 6. I kind of wish we were getting that one for this trip because that would get much better fuel economy, but this actually did surprisingly well in our highway fuel economy test, so I'm curious what it's going to do with a few jet skis on the back. Now, one thing that is improved for 2025 with the Suburban is you can get Super Cruise on the LS trim all the way up to the top High Country. It's no longer hidden at the top. If I'm not mistaken, in the Silverado, the truck, you can only get Super Cruise on the High Country, and I think that's really silly. This one now, the Suburban, you can option it at a much lower price point, and I appreciate that. However, I will fully admit that the RST trim, this one here, was not my ideal choice for this trip, because we will be going out and doing a little bit of off-roading in order to get to our campsite, and we're going to be dropping the jet skis off into the water, and I'm not super excited about doing that with 24-inch wheels. Yes, that is what we're rolling on here. They are an option. You do pay extra for them, and I will admit, they do make the Suburban look really cool. And with the magnetic ride control, the adaptive air suspension, and some of these suspension improvements for 2025, this thing actually rides a lot better than I expected it to with this thin rubber. Now, I really, really wish we would have gotten the Z71. I asked Chevy, I'm like, please tell me you have a Z71 available. A Z71 Tahoe or Suburban with Super Cruise and the diesel would have been the absolute perfect package for this. But all they had was the RST with the Super Cruise, so that is what we're going with. I think if we take it careful off-road, we'll be just fine. And after we do our camping and jet skiing, we're going up to Las Vegas, and this will be the perfect spec for that. Towing some jet skis, looking cool, 24-inch wheels, quad-tipped exhaust here. It is pretty nifty. So I need to start getting ready for the arrival of the jet skis. So I'm going to reach down here and pop off this little trailer hitch cover. Should just come out like this, right? There we go. And there we have it. Looks like we've got a 4-pin and a 7-pin. Big hitch right there. Okay, I should put this somewhere where it's not going to get lost. Garage is probably a good bet. Yeah, let's get this thing hitched up and get ready for a fun weekend. I guess I could also pop this open. Looks like you can fold the third row of seats down. Oh, that's the second one. Okay. Are these power then? You can hold them? Yeah, look at that. That is a lot of storage right there. We should have no problem filling this stuff up. That is one thing we need to do, though, is put today's sponsors' floor mats in here, Lace Fit. Those are going to help us keep this thing clean when we're out in the desert. See what we have in store for the Suburban. This is how these mats come. They're a nice rubber, 3D laser measured material. Kind of a good blend of both flexible and durable. This looks like it's some back liner for the 3-row model. Ooh, yeah. Let's peel that off. Ready? Yeah, look at that. That's like a little metal piece. I haven't seen that yet with the Lace Fit mats. They're going fancy for the Suburban. Put that there. Oh, that's going to be so good for our camping gear because you see we've got these big bins and they just slide around. I've got the water jugs and tent apparatuses and I guess apparati. So it's good to have this. It's going to keep that carpet in good shape. Okay, let's see what else we got. As you can see, the truck just comes with basic carpet mats. Technically you should take those out, but since this is a temporary vehicle for me, I'm just going to see about putting this right on top. Usually I remove them. We'll probably remove the front ones. Let's see. Ah, yeah. See, look how nicely that measures in right around everything. Even without taking the mats out. That lays down very nice. Okay. Oh, they even give us a little one for the third row. That's great. For the driver mat, I will remove the carpet. And then you can see the Lays Fit mat has little spots for the nips that hold it in place. They click down. And very nicely measured, fit through there. And they go way up behind the pedals, which I like, because I'll get in with sandy feet later this week out at the beach, and I want it to be covered all the way up there. Definitely appreciate that. Sweet. Love having my vehicle protected. Get yourself a set of Lays Fit mats. They're doing a sale, 20% off for August. You can use the code below for that. And other than that though, if you see this afterward, just use the code Daily Motor. Get yourself, I think, 10% off. Shout out to Lays Fit. Let's get this thing loaded up. Good morning. Remote started the 6.2. Get it ready to start pulling these bad boys right here. The Kawasaki 160, well, I guess they're both Ultras. Kawasaki Jet Ski Ultra 160 Angler. Got the fishing setup here, so it's got the flat seat. It's got the places for the fishing rods and the cooler on the back. Look at that, 160 LXS Angler. Very excited. And then the big boy, the 310 supercharged jet ski. These things are gonna be a blast, and it's gonna be a nice chill trip out with the Suburban. Got it all hooked up. Shouldn't be too much tongue weight on here. I can't imagine this is a very heavy trailer and the weight's pretty far back. What is our waist safe hitch giving us? All right, so this is about 500 pounds. That seems a little high, but either way, no problem for the Suburban. Let's pop it open here. I'll show you what we've got so far. Decently full, but we got some room still left for Dax and Anish to throw their things. Yeah, it's hard to beat a full-size SUV when it comes to camping. Got the Lays Fit mat already getting beat up. Glad to see that. This little metal piece. See how that holds up. Very cool. And I actually utilized the Suburban's air suspension when loading up the trailer. It was kind of cool. I had it down in entry position when I backed it up so that it was real low and would go underneath the coupler there. And then I raised it up into increased ride height and it sat itself right into the trailer. So that was nice. So we're gonna get pulled up, get the final things loaded, and hit the road. Here we are, 232 miles into the trip. Suburban has been doing fantastic. It is 105 degrees outside. We've got the Android Auto up telling us, how long do we have to go? 40 minutes until we're getting to the lake. And we can use the center screen as well to view our statuses. We can see transmission temp, oil temp, coolant temp, and tire pressures, everything within spec despite going up and down in elevation and running at such high temperatures. Of course, we're using tow haul mode. Even with that, we're averaging 14.8 miles per gallon with an entire truck full of stuff and the jet skis. And look at this. Unlike Blue Cruise and the F-150 that we had for the last trip, we can use Super Cruise on the 55 mile an hour road like this. So it doesn't have to be a highway 70 miles per hour like we were on. This one's still working very well, keeping us going, and that's even with the trailer, which you can see right here with our camera rearview mirror. Got a view of the trailer because if we didn't have that, I would be seeing absolutely nothing because this thing is packed to the gills. But so far, so good with the trip. Decently happy with that fuel economy. been happy with the way this thing has been tugging. You barely notice the jet skis back there. I mean, it's not a particularly heavy trailer and setup and everything, but still good to know even with all this weight, Suburban handling it with grace. We've been comfortable. The only slight downside I would see is that we're looking at a price tag of $91,000 and we don't have ventilated seats. I even saw Dax earlier in the trip click right here thinking, oh cool, I'll get my ventilated seat going. And it's like, oh nope, there's just 2 different stages of heated seat that I could use. So that is a little bit disappointing when it's 105 degrees outside. He's got the sun baking on him. That would be nice to have. The sound system is also just fine, being the 10 speaker Bose, only 5 of the speakers up here. It's got a good amount of bass, which I feel like for a trip like this, that's kind of the most important, but it doesn't have the kind of wow factor of some of the other systems, again, at this price point. We dropped the air suspension down to a lower ride height when we're on the highway. It looks like it's back up to normal ride height now. Other than that, I've been happy with Super Cruise. Here we are, Nevada border, right there, leaving California. Other than that, I've been happy with the Super Cruise, been happy with seat comfort and usability. I would say that we could maybe have a little bit more practical space here. It's kind of a shame that this whole section is taken up with cup holders that won't even fit our water bottles. I mean, maybe Dax's would fit in, but mine, 32 ouncer, does not. Yeah, so yours just barely, and that's not even a huge water bottle there. So I'd like to see some thicker cup holders, maybe kind of adaptable there for the sake that we have all this space. Also, I was talking about this adjustable column earlier, but when you have it filled up with space or with stuff, you can't move this back to access the hidden compartment under there. So that's a little bit frustrating. But other than that, we are going to get to the boat launch. We're going to have some fun with the Kawasaki jet skis and continue on with our weekend and see if we end up camping or if we wussy out in the 110 degree temperatures and we end up finding a motel for the night. Even with the 24-inch wheels, handling the dirt pretty well. I mean, I can't help but think that a little bit of extra sidewall would give us a little bit of extra squish, and it certainly doesn't help that with the temperature all the way up to 109 degrees, rear tire pressures are quite a bit higher than what we set them at cold when we were back near the coast at about 73 degrees Fahrenheit, because it's 35 psi front, 39 psi rear, and already coming back on this return trip, 45 in the rear, 39 up front. I think we were up almost all the way to 50 yesterday when we were coming out here, and you definitely feel the washboarding. But whatever all-terrain tires, or all-season tires rather, that they're putting on this RST model have done pretty well out here, because I've actually kept it in 2-wheel drive, and even pulling the jet ski, it's done a great job. Got that air suspension and the Magna ride, so taking some of these bumps pretty darn well despite being fully loaded. And we have the ride height up and increased. Yes, we do, although we don't really. Oh no, leveling system unavailable. That's right, I tried putting it up earlier and it won't for some reason. I don't know if that's because we're towing or because we're in 2-wheel drive mode. Might be the 2-wheel drive aspect, but either way, this road's pretty. There's not like any big bumps we got to worry about from a clearance standpoint. It's just a little bit bumpy. Down to 14.2 miles per gallon, just a mixture of the pulling and the going slow here, getting through this dirt section, but pulled the jet skis right out of the water, no problem. So we are on our way up to Vegas. We got to try to find a hotel that's going to allow us to park the Suburban and the jet ski together. So wish us luck. About halfway through the trek back after a few nights in Vegas, we survived. We are rallying and getting back home. Definitely appreciating the Super Cruise once again. A little bit low on sleep after a fun few nights, and again, as you can see here, comfortably following the vehicles in front of us, steering nicely, and as long as I'm looking forward, the truck looks at me, knows that I'm paying attention, and continues on its way. And one thing that is pretty darn cool is, you'll see right here it says check trailer right turn signal lamp. Now, for those of you who tow regularly, especially boat trailers or older trailers, anything like that, you know the trailer wiring is not that robust, and things happen. Sometimes wires kind of start fraying and they get a loose connection, and that's what's happened on our trailer with the jet skis. Is every now and then it works fine, every now and then it's starting to pop up with the trailer turn lamp signal issue. So, 2 things that are cool about that. One, Super Cruise is still working. I could totally see a situation in which the semi-autonomous feature won't work because it's detecting some sort of trailer light fault, and GM doesn't want to be liable if the Super Cruise were to put on its brakes or something like that and the trailer didn't work properly. So I'm really glad that even though we're 482 miles into this trip and the trailer's having a few issues, Super Cruise is still working really well. I'd be really disappointed if that made it so it didn't work for the rest of the trip back. And then the other thing that's nice is when you have this trailer screen up, it does show you right here, right turn signal is out, shows you information on your electronic trailer brakes, the boat ramp assist, we didn't really end up using that. So a lot of nice trailering functionality built right into the truck. And like I said earlier, that makes a lot of sense because there's not a ton of reason to get something like this large body on frame SUV with the big motor if you're not using it to haul either things or people, or ideally both. This weekend we've got the 3 people and the rest of the truck entirely filled with gear, and then the jet skis. It's been a perfect companion for that. We're kind of making our way down in elevation, and we did have quite a bit of a headwind coming out of Vegas. We're looking at 13.9 miles per gallon for the trip. That definitely dropped down a good mile per gallon or so during the off-road section as we were getting to and from the campsite along the lake. So I'm going to wrap up more of my thoughts with you and a little bit of a pros and cons at the end of the video here. But again, we're comfortable, the truck's working well, it's chugging away at the miles, and it's doing exactly what I hoped it would. Here we are after 600 miles on the trip and over 800 miles total in the saddle of the Suburban for me. I gotta say, after all of that intimate time using this truck, it's got a lot to love. It's got a character to it that is going to complement your family and lifestyle well if you're putting it to the task. Between the 6.2 liter, the air suspension, all of the capability, it really does the job, and many jobs, well. But I do have a full list of my pros and cons, so let's get through those now. And very few of the cons have to do with the outside. It's actually mostly in here. So let's start off right here. This piano black plastic. Why Chevrolet are you using this for the interior center console area of a family SUV? This is how it looks after just 1 week and 1 road trip of grown men using this car. Can you imagine with kids' snacks and them touching it in their hands, and if women are in here with bracelets scratching this up and sliding water bottles in and out? But over the lifetime of your ownership of the car, how this piano black plastic is going to look, woof, not a good look there. Very disappointed. And on top of that, disappointed that there's not more going on here. There's just all this dead space with this plastic. Give us some floating cup holders and then give us a big storage well or something, rather than have all this gross, easy to beat up plastic just taking up space. Next, the screens. I mentioned, I think it was actually in our fuel economy testing, but these aren't super high quality screens. And I think it's just going to keep beeping at us here if we have the door open. They work fine enough, and it looks nice, especially if you bring up the full screen map. Like, yeah, that looks good. But touching around, you can tell it's not the highest quality screen. And then what bothers me is when you're driving at night and you turn the brightness down, the screen still emits light in the dark areas. And it's the same exact screen that's in our Chevy Equinox EV that we own, so I'm familiar with it. It's these 2 giant screens. They take up so much space, but they blast a lot of light at your eyes, and there's not a good way to turn them off or turn them down without still blasting light. I know it sounds like a subtle complaint, but you got to think about these sort of things if you're going to own a car like this. Next con. I mentioned it a little bit when we were looking at the center console area, but it's a general lack of creativity inside the cabin here in the Suburban. You've got a lot of wasted space here in the center. Now, yeah, if you pay extra, you get this, oh, wrong thing. I guess we can't open that, but you get this center area that will move back, and then you get more cup holders to the rear, and then you've got this little sneaky area. I mean, that's fun, but I'd like to see that kind of mentality go all throughout the cabin. Give us a storage spot here. Give us more storage spots in the back and more creativity. Give us 2 wireless device chargers up here, or the type that hold your phones upright and cool them. And I'm not saying gimmicks, but just more out-of-the-box thinking that people are looking for these days from their larger SUVs like this. The next con, I don't like saying it, but I've got to say it. It's the price. The price of General Motors' full-size SUVs has ballooned so dramatically over the last 20 years. And I get it. These vehicles are much nicer and much more capable than Suburbans and Yukons and Tahoes and Escalades from 2 decades ago. I get that. But compared to the price of so many other cars, I mean, $91,000 for this thing. Eesh. And I looked through the window sticker, and the only things I would really cut out from this RST trim are maybe the 24-inch wheels, so it'll save you about $2,000. So you're still looking at just under $90,000. It is a capable vehicle, I get that. But why? Okay, so wouldn't a very top-level Silverado 1500 High Country also only cost about $90,000? You know what? In fact, I'm just going to look that up right now while I'm thinking about it. So here we are, a 25 Silverado 1500 Crew Cab High Country with the 6.2 and with this Premium 2 Super Cruise package. Why not? Let's throw on the Midnight Edition with the 22-inch wheels. Oh, that removes Super Cruise? Oh no, Super Cruise. Okay. Oh no. We gotta have that. Tech package. Let's do max trailering. This is a tough thing with building out a truck, but either way. As you can see right about here, so a High Country with the 6.2 and Super Cruise, you're looking at only $77,000. So why is this, that's not even a High Country, it's only an RST, why is it $91,000? Now I know they're going to throw cash on the hood right away and you're going to be able to walk out the dealer for a little less than that, but it's just insulting how much they're asking for these big SUVs. The last con is the safety ratings. IIHS has tested not a Suburban, but a Tahoe, and it didn't perform very great. And I don't think NHTSA has any sort of ratings published, at least not at the time of this recording. But if you do look at the window sticker, the one NHTSA rating that's published on here is the rollover and only gets 3 out of 5 stars. So do you really want to be driving your family around in a vehicle that gets 3 out of 5 stars for the rollover rating and some marginal and poor scores on IIHS? I don't know about that one. Now, the only big body-on-frame SUV like this that actually gets a top safety pick plus rating from IIHS is the Nissan Armada. And that's only about the length of the Tahoe, not the length of the Suburban. So if you do need something this large, I mean, you're kind of stuck with either this or the Expedition XL. But something to consider if safety is a big importance for you. But moving on to the pros, and these are some very impactful pros. First up, the physical controls in here. Look at all the physical controls on the steering wheel, all these buttons over here on the left, physical trailer brake controller, physical controls for your headlights, something a lot of the new Chevy vehicles do not have, physical controls for your HVAC. The only physical control we're missing is one for selecting your tracks. And then on top of just the physical controls, it's the general ease of use between the center console areas and then getting in and out of the car. The fact we've got proxy key buttons on all of the doors. Coming into the back, moving these seats around has been very easy. Sliding them back and forth throughout the weekend, folding them up and down. Everything works very, very well. I've been happy with that. So for a vehicle that has to complement your life so much, Chevy did a good job at making it generally easy to use, and part of that is the inclusion of all the physical controls. For the rest of our pros, we're going to have to fire it up. And we hear one of the next pros, that 6.2 liter small block V8, one of my favorite engines on the new car market here to date. And it's not even just the 6.2 that gets a pro from me in this car. It's actually all of the engines that you can get in the Suburban. The 5.3 is good and fine, nothing wrong with it. The diesel, the 3-liter diesel, is going to be fantastic if you do a lot of highway driving. And then the 6.2, surprisingly fuel efficient for the amount of power it makes and the size. And then just so good to listen to, so good to use. I could go for a smoother throttle application. It's a little jumpy, and I'm not the only one to have noticed that on the internet, the jumpiness of the 6.2 when driving it around. So they could dial that back a little bit, the throttle tip in. But all things considered, oh, and I guess I should also point out that it is unfortunate that we do have the cylinder deactivation. Hopefully, that's not going to be a super long-term issue for this motor, but all things considered, I'm a big fan of all the motors offered, all the engines, I should say, offered here in the Suburban. Next pro, the technology in here. I know I complained about the screens themselves in the beginning. That's more of just the screen technology. But the actual execution of the tech, of having Google built in, it gives you Google Assistant, it gives you this fantastic mapping. Everything works well there. This camera rearview mirror is fantastic to have in a big vehicle like this. The tech throughout the weekend was nice to have. The towing technology, the navigation technology, the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Everything worked well throughout our time with the vehicle, 821 miles of it. It's nice to have powerful tech that isn't cumbersome. Next pro is admittedly optional here on this RST model, but the ride quality. For a body-on-frame SUV like this, the combination of the air suspension and the magnetic ride control, this thing handles really well, and it rides really well for a vehicle like this. Now, I can't help but imagine that it would ride even better from a primary ride perspective with smaller wheels, something like the 22-inch wheels, maybe even a set of 20s. That used to be a very large wheel back in the day. Now it's one of the smaller options. But the tweaks that they've made for this 2025 model from the ride quality perspective are really impressive. Usually these big body on frame SUVs, especially driving them around unladen, so you're kind of getting jostled around, but really not too bad here for this one. And the last pro, I mentioned it right at the beginning of the video, is Super Cruise. It's still my favorite semi-autonomous highway driving functionality on the market. I prefer it over Ford's Blue Cruise. It was nice to take trips recently with an F-150 with Blue Cruise, and then with this Super Cruise. It certainly beats the heck out of pretty much, definitely the Rivian system. I've used that quite a bit. Haven't spent enough time recently in Tesla's autopilot. I would say compared to our Model Y that we owned a few years ago, Super Cruise is definitely better. But I haven't driven Tesla's full self-driving recently, so maybe it's improved. But I do appreciate how unobtrusive Super Cruise is, how it's not beeping at you, and how it'll let you change lanes and enable and disable without turning down your music and going bong bong, bong bong, like in the Teslas. And then there's the fact that it works with the trailers. I mean, it's the only one on the market that works while trailering. And we had a jet ski that we took for 600 miles and to still be able to use Super Cruise. Love that. Love that very much. And it would push me toward getting a General Motors truck or SUV just in order to have Super Cruise. So I do like the Suburban. There are frustrations with it, including the price, but I have enjoyed using this truck for what it's intended to do. Get filled up and pull things. That's what it does a great job at. That's what we used it for. I'm happy. I'm happy with it. But before we actually wrap up, we do need to put the Chevy Suburban on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. And this one's going to be a little bit interesting because the Nissan Armada Pro 4X is pretty high up on our Daily Motor Leaderboard for 2025. And I liked that quite a bit. I was very impressed with the Nissan Armada. Current leaders on the Daily Motor Leaderboard: Ford F-150, Hyundai Santa Fe, Honda Passport. I've enjoyed the Suburban. I don't know if I've really loved it. I've enjoyed it though. Let's see. Better than the Ford Explorer, yeah. I think this Explorer was fine. I actually kind of wish the Frontier were a little bit higher, but the steering was just so heavy on the Frontier. I think this is where it's going to go. Right here, up in the 12th place, behind the Toyota Crown Signia and above the Aston Martin Vanquish. So just outside of 10th place. It's again, one of those cars that, for the right sort of buyer, it's fantastic. If you're somebody who needs to do a lot of towing, a lot of distance with a lot of people, it's really hard to beat one of the General Motors full-size SUVs. I would pick it over the Sequoia. If I were in the market for a Tahoe, one of the smaller ones, I think I would pick the Nissan over this. I just me as a general user, Now, maybe if I got to spend time with one of the Tahoe, the Z71s, maybe I would feel a little bit different. But yeah, it's a solid truck, and for the right sort of person, just the ticket. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Chevy Suburban, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.